Hello students, today we will discuss USA 9/11 and its impact in the USA. We have discussed America in the historical context in our earlier lectures. For example, the American Revolution, the African American history, the history of slavery, and again the American U.S. politics or the American society and the government was discussed during our discussion on World War One and World War Two, and of course America or the USA was discussed in details during the Cold War period. So today we will discuss about the contemporary American society and particularly how the Muslims in America, who form a minority, I guess they are about 1% of the total population, how they are faring in the contemporary American society. Since 9/11, September 11, 2001, the situation has changed. Muslims are viewed as the other by a section of the wider society. So the question arises why the Muslims are viewed as the other. So in this context, we need to understand some of the reasoning why Muslims are being singled out, which is of course not fair and which is again against human rights, against the human rights concept. As we all know that September 11 in 2001 there was this terrorist attacks by this Muslim group who form a tiny minority in the world's majority Muslim population, and they were the Al Qaeda terrorist group who attacked America. So the Al Qaeda terrorist group conducted or carried out this horrendous act of terrorism in September 11, 2001. So there are two planes. They attacked the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York. The third plane hit the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and their fourth plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. So the casualties or the victims of this Al Qaeda terrorist attack was 3,000, about 3,000 people were killed, and among them were 358 Muslims. So the Muslims have been equally victims of the September 11, 2001 acts of terrorism carried out by the Al Qaeda terrorist groups. But since then, a section of the American society view the Muslims in America as the other. And here the term Islamophobia emerges. Islamophobia means fear of Muslims. So the Muslims who looks visible, for example, Muslim women who wear the headscarf or the hijab or the face veil, the niqab, or the full burqa, that's the full long dress with their hijab or niqab, so they are viewed as the other. And Muslim men who have the beard and who wear Muslim visible dress, for example, the jilbab, the long dress, or shalwar kurta, or pajama Punjabi, as we say, as we see very common in Bangladesh. With their beard also they look visible. So sometimes the Sikhs are singled out or by mistake. They are viewed as the Muslim, and they are also vilified by a section of the non-Muslim American society. So the singling out or the discrimination or because the discrimination that some of the Muslim face in the American society can be viewed as Islamophobia if they are discriminated on the basis of their visibility or on the basis of their Muslim sounding name. Sometimes the women, their scarf is torn apart by the perpetrators. Sometimes the mosques are vandalized, and sometimes the Sikhs are mistaken as Muslims, and their gurdwara, their temples, are vilified. So this happens in the societal level. and sometimes there are people are singled out at the airports because of their Muslim visibility. So I have conducted a research when in from 2009 to 2011 as a visiting fellow at Harvard University in Massachusetts, United States. My research topic was an understanding of the identity of young American Muslims. So I have interviewed 379 participants from 6 states of America, and the 6 states were Massachusetts, New York, Virginia, Maryland, Florida, and Michigan. Then later in 2014, I conducted another 21 interviews. So in total, it becomes 400 interviews. So in 2014, I interviewed some Muslims in New York and New Jersey. So out of these interviews, I have written 2 books, and these are all published in the United Kingdom by Routledge and by Edinburgh University Press. So my book's name is Young. My books, as I said, I have published 2 books based on these interviews. So the books' names are Young American Muslims, Dynamics of Identity, and the recent book is Muslim Americans Debating the Notions of American and Un-American. So in my book, I have in the 2 books I have discussed the settlement of young American Muslims, particularly in the American society. There are positive interviews. The Muslims have settled well in America after 9/11. Still, Muslims are migrating to America for a better life, and again, American society they needs skilled immigrants out from overseas. So, as I have always discussed, immigration is a two-way street. Both groups are benefited through immigration. So in my interviews, I found some students, some participants were a bit concerned and stressed, and my participants have been mostly 15 to 18 years. So the age group of my participants have been 15 years and over, but most participants were 15 to 18 years. So the young voices were very helpful for my research. So some of the interviewees for my recent book, Muslim Americans Debating the Notions of American and Un-American. So they defined the word American and Un-American. So American and Un-American are 2 words used by the politicians, particularly the conservative politicians, and they would say that, well, this is American, so that means these people are American, so that means they are one of us, and those people, those immigrants are un-American, so that means they have not accepted our values, and they are the other. So this is how they make the difference, and they bring the division in the society, and that is not helpful. So I wanted to understand the concept of American and un-American. In my recent book, which I have discussed, the terms, and the students have said. So most students would say that American means they have a very positive views of the Americans, that they are helpful, they are patient, they are tolerant, and in the schools we say the Pledge of Allegiance. So they view the society very positively. A majority of my participants had a very positive view of the American society because most of them were born in America, and they felt very inclusive in the American society. But while some students or the participants who were 15 to 18 years old, and some were young adults, and some Muslim leaders, viewed un-American was Islamophobia. So Islamophobia is, they would say racism is Islamophobia, and sorry, they would say racism is un-American, Islamophobia. Some of them would say racism is American, like they would give the example of how the African Americans are placed in today's American society, and they would also say Islamophobia is American. But these are minority participants. They would say, they are that they have been vilified at the airports. Their parents have been vilified at the airports or other places because of their visibility. So, according to their observation and experience, they have defined their concept of un-American or their views on Islamophobia. After 9/11, the US government have enacted anti-terrorism laws. For example, the US Patriot Act, and with this act, they would some Muslims have been under surveillance, were deported, and so there would be they were say they were. The security officers would go without any warrant and go to a Muslim's house to check. So this has been difficult for some Muslims, but then again, as I say, the tiny minority of Muslims, and in this case, the Al Qaeda terrorist groups, they have tarnished the image of majority Muslims through their act of terrorism. But on the basis of national security, of course, there should be anti-terrorism laws. There should be some policies to safeguard the Americans, both Muslims and non-Muslims. But then again, sometimes when in the name of national security, when the practice goes overboard and some Muslims are discriminated, and that is not helpful, and that can be considered as Islamophobic act. So if you do the readings, the chapters I have posted in your LMS, that should be helpful, and then you can see read some of the Islamophobic cases and the general views of the participants of my study. The politicians, particularly the Republicans, in their election time, they would induce fear among the American voters, and that the Muslims are coming, and they portray the Muslims as a problem and as a terrorist, as terrorists. So whereas as I have been always addressing these issues in my lectures and in my book talk and in the conferences, that majority Muslims are peace-loving Muslim people. They are providing their skills and services to the American society, as much as they are also enjoying a good quality of life, a better education, better medical services compared to their country, to the country of origin. But when the politicians they make divisive rhetoric focusing or targeting the Muslim, and that's not helpful. They are creating fear, and that is that causes division in the society. So I have given talks on Muslim Americans and their identity, and I have also given talks on my book. You will find it in the LMS folders where I have uploaded the YouTube that will help you better understand the situation of Muslim migrants in the American society. As for Islamophobia, I've already discussed. We can say Islamophobia is practiced. Perhaps it can be seen at three levels. The general people, the ordinary people, the visible Muslims in the society, in the public place, they can be vilified, and that can be considered as an act of Islamophobic act because of their physical appearance. They are considered as the other. In the job market, sometimes for their names, visible, the Muslim sounding names, they are being discriminated. The politicians, they single out the Muslims through their divisive rhetoric, and they induce fear. But then again, it's not all the politicians. It's some politicians, which I have discussed in my book, and it has been, generally speaking, the Republicans, they try to induce fear among their voters on the Muslims during the election time. And about the media, some media, the print media, I have done in the my research on the print media, the newspaper, and what I found is that the print media, not all, but some, particularly the tabloids, they would have headlines and the images of Muslims, and that is how they stereotype the Muslims and induce fear among the general population. And in times of crisis, sometimes all the media, they would have a single voice that the Muslims are the other. Among the electronic media, CNN, my participants have praised the CNN, which has an unbiased stance, but the Fox, the participants have been very critical of the Fox channel, which generally promotes the Republicans and which has been very stereotypical of the Muslims. So, but in my work, I have also seen that the diversity is working in America. There are many mosques in the United States. There are Eid congregation. People go for prayers during Eid time. During the when the moon is sighted before Eid al-Fitr in New York, the Empire State Building, they lit their green light in the Empire State Building, and the green is, of course, the color for Islam, that means peace. And so and that is again the lightning of the Empire State Building reflects the inclusiveness of Muslim in the American society. There are the politicians, or there are notable people in politics, in academia, in medicine, in many facets of the society, and those people are Muslims. They are holding high positions in the American society. If you go through my slides, the PowerPoint slides, you will see I have some slides which shows the media stereotype, and again I have some slides which has the pictures of the politicians who are Muslims, the successful people in the society. They are some of them are Muslims, and there are also pictures of the Eid congregation, which shows that diversity and inclusiveness is in full swing in America. But it's just that a section of the American society is Islamophobic, and but then again, there are people who are there to speak for the Muslims. So I suggest that you do the reading and see the PowerPoints. My YouTube discussion has elaborately discussed about the Muslim settlement in America, but I spoke on my book, and so it gives you it will give you a picture of of Muslims in America, and I hope this video is helpful to for you for this lecture, and it will help you in your final assignment too. Thank you.